Well, hello and good morning, everyone. And here we are gathered for the ECB press conference that's due in just about 15 minutes. So there's a lot to unpack as the market volatility just continues on. So hope everyone is having a good time with this market volatility, because I know this for some traders, this is new for volatility, and this is what you just have to be very careful with this sort of back and forth that we get in the markets. Let's see, we're on the right side of the direction here. So let's just jump right into the trade station, just and the trading view, and just take a look at what's really taking place in the last 24 hours and how are we going to position ourselves here for today. I know usually I come in with a bit of a bias how I'm going to trade this euro for the ECB press conference, but right now I'm more on the sideline here because if you just see if you see what happened just recently, let's go to Forex Factory. We got the rate hike, which was in line with expectation. 3.5 versus 3%. So that's a 50 basis point. There was a lot of sort of a conversation that the ECB might not come in and do this rate hike because of this recent developments that we've seen in this in the banking sector, especially with Credit Suisse yesterday. Some massive moves that happened here. You can see this is the big euro move that took place yesterday. Same thing with the Swiss franc. There was a big move that took place here. So what's happening today is that both of those areas are a bit stabilized. And let's start with the equity markets first, because we need to take a look at what the risk sentiment is right now. And right now, if you take a look at the S&P 500, we are lower, and this is again one of the reasons why we are not really seeing markets reversing what we saw yesterday. There's still a lot of red today, and again, that's partly due to the market just hasn't bounced yet. Could the market bounce today? I mean, right now, if you just take a look at it, starting off the day here, this is the S&P futures here. You can see that the yesterday in the closing time we did have a rally, but then overnight we just have seen some sort of weakness come in. Same thing again if you take a look at the European markets. Again, for European markets, you can see that these just haven't gone anywhere. So the day again looks better than yesterday. I think this was a little positive that they did raise rates as expected, because this is a big challenge right now for central banks. You know, financial stability over inflation, and it's not a good situation to be in. And the same focus goes for FOMC next week when they meet on Wednesday. If you look at the Fed tool and to see where we are, I mean, day by day, we have been diminishing our outlook. I mean, we were sitting at quite a strong outlook for raising rates by 50 basis points. And even if you take a look at the 25 basis points, that's very split. There's a 41% chance that the Fed won't be raising rates. And there's a 58% chance that they'll be raising rates. And if you have been paying attention to this has only been going lower. I think this was sitting at 80% just a day or two ago. So there is that negative sort of sentiment that's coming in, for central banks to continue raising rates. Unlike the ECB, maybe this is where markets may be getting ahead of itself. Maybe the FOMC come in next week and they do raise as expected. So, like I said, there's a lot of hesitation in the markets based on this, and this is where you start to see some bets coming in that, this is the end, they have to do this. But right now, it's still real early to call until we get that news from the Fed. So let's see what the day's looking like right now. So seeing a bit of a back and forth, and I think this is where you need to pay attention to the equity markets, because this is where we are going to see what the risk on and risk off sentiment is as the day is starting. It's just not starting as on a positive note. It's still sort of struggling here. But let's go in an hourly chart. As you can see that with some support right here. So if we give back the support and go lower, yes, we can see a continuation of that slide that we saw yesterday. But I'm not really seeing that slide. I think this is where I think we had a great trading week so far. I think this is a point not to Not to get really ahead of ourselves here as far as the negativity goes here. I think we can just continue to go back and forth unless we really break support, and that's where we start to see more further selling. If you take a look at the volatility index, you can see volatility index has been spiking, and so far it's pretty calm this morning. So let's go into the currency markets and actually take a look at the some of the euro currency pairs. If this is your first time trading the ECB press conference, this is not like any other economic reports that comes out and we have an instant price action. This is a press conference, so as the comments start to roll, we start to see price action. And this time, there's definitely a lot of focus on the euro press conference, because Christine Lagarde, again, we're supposed to see if there's sort of a guidance or some, like, what the Fed is thinking as far as their policy goes. Is this a sort of a moment where we see a turning point? I think that's what we need to see that. Anyways, let's go into the currency baskets here. So the US dollar, again, this is where everything is kind of looking very similar. US dollar is not really going anywhere. It did pull back overnight, but then again, not really moving aggressively one way or the other. It's slightly weak. Where we are seeing continued strength is in the Japanese yen. And again, this is on the back of risk-off sentiment. And I'm very surprised that we are seeing the yen continue to be as a risk-off currency. But as you can see, that every time we see that risk-off, we see this aggressive moves, but then it just end up giving away if the market sort of recover some of the moves here. So right now, momentum looks pretty strong in the yen, but I think I did the same thing. We need to be cautious about not getting in too late, because the big moves kind of taking place here. Let's go into the euro. So euro, again, after a big fall, you can see it's just not really going anywhere today. We had a nice little recovery towards the end of the day yesterday, but then we're starting off on the weaker note here. So when do I think it's ready to be shorted here? So if one of the things to take a look at is that euro overall is still a very in a decent uptrend. It's not as bullish as we see a counterpart like Swiss franc, but you can see that it has been moving lower, higher. Now we are coming back into this range. This is the window that we are back in. And we are right now testing around this moving average here. So let's go to the hourly chart. I mean, an hourly chart, you can say that, hey, is this a bear rally? Because we just broke lower. We went rally up a little bit here and then pulling back. So this is a bear rally formation setup. But right now, again, where do you enter? I wouldn't want to enter unless it really breaks that support of the previous low here. Until then, I mean, right now, this is still in the middle of this bear rally formation. But again, this can come down here and then kind of go back up here, come back here. Maybe this can turn into a bit of a sideways range here. So be careful with the euro. Again, the comments, I think, will guide what the euro does. Let's go to Swiss franc, because that's really where we saw another big move. I mean, take a look at that, where euro Swiss franc was. We had a massive gout on Swiss franc. And here we are, just coming back here. So, I mean, I like this exhaustion. I mean, we pointed that exhaustion out like a couple of days ago, and it actually worked out pretty nicely here, with this event coming in. Now we are back in the range here. If this level gives up, then we are aiming for this previous level here. Swiss franc in general has been a very strong currency. Could this change anything for Swiss franc? That's something we have to really, wait and see. Like I said, this is the first stage of the move. We got the big move down. Now we're just trying to have this little bear rally or sideways pattern. But you can see that the line I've drawn here, this is the previous high, which is now the support. I would want to go short if this goes below that. So again, that will give me a signal that, yes, the Swiss franc is ready to be shorted once again. But after a big fall, not always we see a continuation right away. We might see some sort of sideways price action before we go. Let's take a look at the pound. And is this pound right now? This is sideways, not really going anywhere. So not interested. Remember, we need to focus on what's moving. Let's go into the CAD. CAD, really, is it going anywhere? It's not really going anywhere. Let's go into the Aussie. Well, is Aussie going anywhere right now? It's not. Remember, I'm actually looking at 4-hour chart, so I need to see something bigger happening because right now we are in a sideways pattern here. If I go on a 15-minute chart, of course, I'll see some candlestick moving, but using a 4-hour chart to make sure we're getting a nice little move here. So this is not moving either. Now let's go down to the Kiwi. Is Kiwi moving? I mean, Kiwi had a negative GDP yesterday. If you have paid attention yesterday evening, the GDP that came out was on the negative side, minus 0.6 versus minus 0.2. Again, that really diminishes some of the bullishness that we've seen in the Kiwi here. So on a daily chart, Kiwi looks like it's still hanging in there. It's not aggressively. It's not an aggressive buy or a sell here. So as we went through all the currency basket, realized that we kind of came up with, hey, nothing really looks good. And this is where you need to be. You don't need to click the buttons. You don't need to play every news event. We want to play when there is a movement. So yesterday was, again, a great trading day. We saw more than 2% moves across the board. So if there's an opportunity today, where can we see an opportunity? Is it the yen? I mean, if you take a look at the yen here, we did break out, but notice what's happening here. We're kind of peaking a little bit here. But again, this has to do with the equity markets. So let's go back to the equity markets. The equity markets are recovering a little bit today, as of this morning. But could this last? I mean, we still have a little bit of a climb to get above these moving averages. This is what I call no man's land. If you are a bull, you're hesitating. You're a bear, you're hesitating. But that's okay. That's what happens after these big movements. So we are about just a few seconds away, and we'll see what the comments or any sort of movements we see in the euro. But like I said, right now, the euro seems to be recovering here. Market seems to be recovering here. So if I had to take a look at risk to reward ratio, I'd rather look for a bounce in the markets than continuation. But again, that could change with any sort of guidance that we get from ECB. So let's hang in tight here. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and let me know. Any pairings you're looking at. But again, today is just volatility. I was paying attention to Euro Swiss franc yesterday. I mean, there was a sort of a recovery candle. I mean, take a look at the candlestick that we had yesterday. I mean, that was a very nice reversal candle. So you'll probably do better than Swiss franc. I mean, right now you can see that it's just quickly reversing those gains as well. So we are, again, if I draw this line here, we are right below this previous support line. So a lot of back and forth, but it really hasn't given us, a V-shaped recovery, or it's ready to go higher. Today could be a bit of an inside candle day where, you see a big candle that takes place. The next day, we just been inside that candle. I mean, they look at the the Swiss franc here. We got a big candlestick yesterday. We got an inside candle. But again, take a look at the shadow on that candle. That's not a good sign. If you are looking at if you're looking at this, that this is going to reverse, this is not a good candlestick. So right now, again, the expectation would be to maybe not go anywhere today, but then tomorrow we can actually maybe do a test to this report side. Let's see what the bond yields are doing. All right, let's take a look at what the bond yields are doing. You can see that all of this has to do with, again, what's happening with the bond markets. With the recent developments, you can see the bond market has plummeted. I mean, we had a very big drop in the last few days with the Swiss, the Swiss Valley, Silicon Valley Bank. We're mixing up our Swiss and the U.S. here. But the Silicon Valley Bank, again, that's the aftermath of that. And if you look at it, that was like a 21% move down. We got a nice bounce off this moving average here, 200 moving average. And then we got a nice little bounce here. But then right after that, we got hit with this Credit Suisse news. So at this point, I mean, the bond markets, the yields are not telling us, a pretty picture here, because you can see how the yields have been up and up and up. But in the short term, the expectation has come down quite big. And this is where the question I had was that, okay, if this expectations come down quite a bit, is there an opportunity there? Is the market getting ahead of itself, and the Fed will just have to continue with their mandate? Because just a week ago, before this banking sort of crisis here. The Fed chair came out with a very aggressive sort of speech that they had to continue raising rates for combating inflation. So that's why I said this is where we are sort of getting ahead of ourselves here, but we need that pivot from the Fed. And again, like I said, Fed is in a very precarious situation here because they need to combat inflation at the same time. They need to have the financial stability in the market. So that's where we are. And let's go back to the euro here, see if the ECB is sort of changing its tone here. But again, I personally think that maybe the central banks are not going to, preemptively come in and make a change. But at the same time, the markets are aggressively expecting that. So maybe there's an opportunity there in repricing that one. But again, that could be that could be just a wait and see approach. But till next week. So EuroCAD on a weekly chart. What do you think? Let's take a look at EuroCAD. Are you looking at for a long side or short side? Let me know. I'm assuming that you're looking on the long side here. So EuroCAD, as far as the weekly chart goes, if we had a nice breakout, but then we are right back at that 200 moving average. So personally speaking, I am undecided on this one. I think if you take a look at this candlestick today, not a good candlestick that we are seeing this week. If this can recover and get back up, I might like it on the upside. But at this point, we are pausing at the 200 moving average. So I think this was so we can say that it pierced through, but then it just reversing it back. So don't really love that when you see it's holding those technical levels. It looked much better going into this week at this point, but not anymore. Again, I think this is where, the question you need to ask is that, do I want euro long? Do I think that euro would reverse its losses? This is just a buying opportunity? Market freaked out. I think euro is going to recover. I think that's a question you got to ask. And if that's the answer that you're getting, then what do I need to pair euro against? And again, if everything has to reverse, I think then the yen could reverse as well. In that case, maybe there's a buying opportunity in euro yen as it's approaching the support here. But like I said, this is the time where I personally don't have a strong opinion. These are the situations I like to see how it plays out before I can stick my neck out there. But yeah, these are the times where you don't want to be married to one outlook. You want to be open to both case scenarios and see what happens. The biggest thing right now with this, we have already seen that in the last few days. The Swiss Valley Bank, quickly spilled into this European banking crisis. So is this contagion? Like, this is spreading? Is this something that we're likely to see more and more? And if that's the case, remember, that's going to put pressure on the markets. If this kind of blows over, because a lot of times, if you look back in time, we have this sort of volatility in the short term, but it just blows over, and then we start to look forward to the rest of the markets. And in that case, that could give you a buying the dip opportunity. But right now, the fact that markets are not even reversing, it's just telling you that this is weighing on the markets a bit longer. So not giving me any signal that I want to play that reversal across the board. All right, I had another question here for the dollar yen. Let's take a look at dollar yen. So very interesting move, dollar yen. Just a week ago, look at the daily chart here. So let's go to the daily chart. We had a nice rally from February till March. We went from 128 up to 137. That was a very impressive move. This was a good period for the US dollar. 6.47%. But then after that, now we already have given up most of his gains. So question is, we have given almost half of his gains. So we rallied 6%, we gave back 3 or 4%. So where do we go from here? Because some traders would say, this is maybe a buying the dip opportunity because we were in a strong downtrend. We made a higher high, and we're making a higher low. So question is this a higher low? An hourly chart. Let's go 4-hour chart here. So right now, again, if you look at the price action, this is a typical bear rally pattern. And we are now, we kind of came back and tested that 132 area. We're getting a nice little reversal off of this, or a little bit of a candlestick that's giving us the shadow here. I mean, this could easily kind of go back up. We can see this be a ABC correction and then kind of resume to the uptrend. But right now, at this point, it's a tough call. I think it's not giving me a great signal. This is the reasons why I'm not really very extremely bullish or bearish either way. I'm not. I think this, like I said, this could be a buying opportunity. Maybe this is mispricing. We'll have to wait and see till next week with the Fed. If the Fed comes out next week, again, let's go back to the schedule here. If the Fed comes out next week and say, well, water under the bridge and let's focus on inflation, then we'll probably see a resumption of that trend that we had back in February. So I think that's where I'm in that split camp there. So all right, let's go to the euro here and see what has happened. I mean, since we've been talking, is the euro doing well? Well, the euro seems to be recovering here, which is again a good sign. Seems like the comments that we have seen so far has been bullish or not as pessimistic as trade was expecting. And this is exactly what I've been talking about. Same thing for the US dollar as well. There's a lot of pessimism came in after these bank collapse. Now, is this where the traders, the bets are getting ahead of itself? It could totally can. So if you are looking again like buying the dip opportunity in the euro, let's go back to your EuroCAD. I do like EuroCAD in the shorter term, as if this is already back to the resistance here. So back to your question about on a weekly chart. I mean, we're still not done with the week yet. So maybe this can still, you can see that this is already recovering a little bit here. So if you're waiting to make that decision after the weekly candle close, maybe that'll be more clear how things end tomorrow. But right here in the short term, you can see that it's having a recovery. But the question is that, are we seeing that across the board? Let's take a look at Euro Aussie. Well, Euro CAD looks better than Euro Aussie. Let's take a look at Euro Kiwi. Well, Euro Kiwi, I think Euro CAD looks a little bit better here. I mean, if you look at the recovery, Euro CAD recovery yesterday, not as much, but look at Euro Kiwi recovery. I do like Euro Kiwi as well. I mean, if we take a look at Euro and take a look at Kiwi, Kiwi has done really well. But with this GDP report yesterday, that really dampened the hawkish outlook for the Kiwi. And we can see that in currency cross like Aussie Kiwi. I mean, look at that. Last night, we got that movement here, a big rally. So maybe is this a change happening in the euro, in the Kiwi versus the Aussie? And if that's the case, maybe Euro Kiwi would be another one to pay attention to as well. As you can see that on this weekly chart, this is already above the 20 and the 50-day and the 200-day moving average. So technically, this is also goes in the list as well. And you can always take a look at Kiwi CAD if you were trying to make that decision, which one is better versus the worst. And you can see that Kiwi CAD, I mean, right now you can see on a weekly chart, not a confidence candle that we can see here. Maybe this will blow over. Looking at this, I think I like this Kiwi a little bit more on the short side compared to the CAD. Hope that helps here. All right, said already in a long trade. That's great. I mean, depending on where your entry point is. If you had sat through that pullback yesterday, that's a big one. But again, right now, it's not a bad sign that it's kind of making that recovery. So you can see that with this movement here too. Again, I think euro is just kind of going back and forth. Look at that. So yeah, again, euro is not a screaming buy. It's not a screaming sell. So we are right in the middle there. Yeah, so again, when we score these movements, you can always score it between like a 0, +1, +2, and +3. This is a +1 for the short term. But this is why I'm not so excited to really jump on anything here. Here's a good thing here. Look at the equity markets. Equity markets are recovering. So if the equity markets can put in a rally today, now maybe there's a trade there. And if that happens, which one do I like the best? I think look at the yen. I actually like yen short because again, yen is only running on this risk-off sentiment. If the risk-off sentiment improves, I mean, I think yen can pull back. And again, same thing. You can take a look at what do I want to be shorting. What do you want to buy yen against? I mean, euro yen. Look at that. We got a nice little fake breakout. We're getting above here. It's sitting at 140.34. I mean, so these levels are quite wide. Maybe you have to trade it or find which level you want to see this clear before you jump on. But maybe there's an opportunity in that yen crosses there because again, that would be basing on this is what's moving in the markets, and we need to kind of focus on what's moving in the markets. And if the markets recover, then that's a trade that I possibly be looking at. The yen short there. I mean, look at that. We got a nice little sort of a fake breakout. And that's why I was sort of, even though there was a nice breakout already there, I was kind of wary of that because this again comes down to the risk on and risk off sentiment. So let's take a look at which one looks good. Actually, look at the dollar here. So dollar's not doing anything. The yen is the only one moving, and euro. So yeah, I mean, if I really have to pay attention to what's moving as of right now, I think it's the euro yen. Where you want to get an entry, again, that all comes down to your strategy, your holding period. I always say, to be consistent with what you're doing. Right now you can say that, well, this is a support. This is the area right here. But this is the range that you're dealing with. So it's sitting at 140.38. The resistance at 141. So if I move my stop right along this level, I'm getting a 1-to-1 risk reward. Not as much. Yeah. But this is where, when you're unsure, always start with the smaller position size and kind of leg in if the position continues to go in your way. Let's see what the dollar yen is doing. Again, dollar is not doing anything right now, but dollar yen, same thing. It broke lower and it's having a nice little bounce here. So again, it all comes down to what the equity market does. Again, still not green yet, but again, right now, if we can get a big push here, the yen is just continuing to fall right off that. So again, this is just very correlated play. I think it doesn't matter which currency pair that you pick. Let's see. I think they'll all probably be moving right now. Aussie yen. Yep. Look at 5-minute chart. Like it's moving here. And look at that Kiwi yen. They're all kind of having the similar move. So again, this is where it's not the other currencies that's moving. It's the yen moving. So it doesn't matter which one you pair with. They're all kind of having a very similar move. So yeah. So I'm glad that we didn't jump into the short wagon here because, again, markets are recovering. At the same time, like I said, we are still very much in the middle here. Pay attention to the Euro basket and see if we start to see more gains. We start to see some clearing levels because until we clear the levels, it's still stuck in that technical range-bound price action. Once it breaks out, I'll be more aggressive on that. And as always, you don't have to make a trade. Remember, being in cash is also a position. I think that's what happened when every time we jump in, you see we're finding reasons why we should be trading. Why should we be jumping on this? But again, nothing has really jumped out yet. So don't push a trade when it's not there. Maybe today's the day we gotta be lurking on the side. So that's what we are. As far as the schedule goes, do we have anything else in the next 24 hours? Let's go back to today and tomorrow. Again, today, after the ECB, there's not a whole lot. And tomorrow, we just had the consumer sentiment. So we don't have anything till tomorrow. So what that means, that market's likely to digest the news, likely to maybe attempt a recovery. And I think that probably be the trade for the week. But again, very excited for next week because if you take a look at the schedule next week, we got the FOMC, and we look at that. We have not only the FOMC. I mean, I'm very excited for this one as well. The Swiss Bank, they have their press conference as well, And yeah, so there's a lot of central bank announcements. There's a lot to focus on next week. So till then, keep the powder dry if you're trading, and if your conviction level is lower, then just use smaller position size, because then at least you can test it out by not really risking too much. So that's the game plan. Thanks everyone for joining. It's always nice to do these live sessions. Today worked out perfect that we were able to see the market open. So enjoy your rest of the day. If you have any questions, you can always send me an email, Ankit, ANKIT @mappetrade.com. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next class. Cheers, everyone. Have a good day.